computer. Okay. So we're doing the first Sugya in Masekhet Holin. This is class number 1 on the first Sugya in Masekhet Holin. And let's let's begin. Let's read the Mishnah. Kol shochatin.
شيل
Yes.
قطعتين وشحيتتان شيلة فلوس بحلو شتفتان
Okay. So there's three.
سميت
There's three clauses. Hakol shochatin. Everybody can make shechita. Ushchitatan keshera. And if they make shechita, the shechita is keshera. That's very strange, by the way. Strange nosach for the Mishnah, which always wants to preserve language and, to try to condense language. Hakol shochatin u'shechitatan keshera. Okay. Chuz, clause number 3. Chuz, meferesh. Kol shochatin. If you're saying Hakol shochatin, so I mean, that means shechitatan keshera. Not going to say it's, or kol shochatim shechitatan keshera, right? But okay, no problem. We'll see later. So
קטן שמנה יקלקלו
et shechitatan, no cheres shote vekatan are excluded, and the reason they're excluded is because a cheres shote vekatan they may end up messing the shechita. The shechita may get messed up for some reason, not clear why. We'll see why later. But the point is, the shechita that the cheresh or katan may be an improper shechita. Shemeh, meaning me'ikar din, very interesting. It comes out that me'ikar din, if a katan does shechita, it would be kosher. But the reason it's not kosher is because the hashash is that the shechita may not be a good shechita. We'll see why.
יכולה ששחטו ואחדים רואים אותן שחיטתן כשרה
And anybody who does shechita, and this person who does the shechita is supervised by others, אחרים רואים אותם, shechitatan keshera, the shechita is kosher. So, one of the things that Shterla talks about in the horizontal society is that the Mishnayot encoded the memory of Israel. And that it's not everything is just, people think, oh, it's, for example, they say the Torah is a history book. Okay, it's not a history book. We didn't write the Torah for purposes of history. Right? When it says Adam ki aklim became korban laHashem, that's not history. Okay, but fine. What is the Mishnah? People say the Mishnah is a code of law. It's not a code of law. It's encoding the memory of the Sanhedrin of Israel. Now, in order to encode the memory, and as Shlomo Melech says, and I told you many, many times, as you know, lehavin mashal u'melisa divrei chachamim v'chidotam. This is a type of, there's a chidah here. You say lakol shochatim, then you say shachitatan keshera, then you say kulam sheshachatu v'acharim lo imotam shachitatan keshera. You say lakol shochatim. כולם ששחטו ואחרים רואים אותם שחיטתן כשרה, but also אם אחרים לא רואים אותם שחיטתן כשרה. It's a very unusual Mishnah, right? So it's
כולם, like it's not clear what כולם means. If it's talking about חגה שוטה וקטן, they would probably say if it's talking about חגה שוטה וקטן.
By the way, you're right. That's one of the...
כולם.
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe it's פשוט that they mean חגה שוטה וקטן, but...
So we're going to see the Gemara is going to deal with all these issues. Now, let me tell you what's happening here. Because people don't understand this. Go ahead.
It's like it's حاجة شتى וקטן, maybe it says שלושתן.
No, it's
no.
The Gemara gets into it. The Gemara says if it was Hiresh Shote vekatan, it would say Ve'im shachatu shechitatan keshera. That's all. Ve'im shachatu. Hiresh Shote vekatan no good. Ve'im shachatu ve'acharim ro'im otam. But that's it later on. Put that on the side. I'm not trying to point out solutions. You're looking for a solution. I want you to first understand, dwell, part of being a Talmid Chacham, and part of understanding Torah is to learn how to dwell with the problem. and to feel comfortable with the lack of clarity. That's part of being a Tamil Chacham. Because later on, when you study
Mhm.
the Sodot of the Torah, the more mystical parts of the Torah, you need to learn how to dwell in the problems. You understand? Okay. Ben kach
Yeah.
ben kach. I want to tell you what's happening here. We have a very long sugya. Maybe today we'll finish the first part of the sugya. The Yes, it's Rosh Chodesh. Um, Maybe today we'll finish it, but I want to tell you what's happening here. There's a conversation here between Rav Ahad Bered Rava, who was um, apparently the son of the famous Rava. Some people say yes, some people say no, but it looks like he was the son of the famous Rava, Kach nirah li. And he's having a dialogue with Rav Asher. Now, what you need to know is that Rav Asher, in order to understand the sugya, and nobody explains the sugya, actually, I'm going to explain it. In order to understand the sugya, you need to know that Rav Asher was one of the editors of the Gemara. The Gemara was edited by Ravina and Rav Asher, right? So Ravina and Rav Asher are the ones who edited the final version of the Gemara. And what's actually happening here is that Rav Aha is discussing with Rav Asher how he's going to edit the Sugya. And I'm going to prove it to you later. I'm going to prove it to you later. Meaning, this discussion didn't need to be included in the Gemara. For some reason, Rav Asher decided to include the discussion in the Gemara, probably because he thought that what Rav Aha and Rabbi is saying is worthy of being in the Gemara. But I want you to understand what's happening here. I'm going to solve you a lot of problems and kushiyot by telling you a very simple thing. This is a conversation. It's happening between Rav Asher, who's the Rosh Yeshiva of Surah. Um, by the way, I think I mentioned to you, how old was Rav Asher when he became the Rosh Yeshiva?
Maybe
14, yeah.
14.
It's not bad. Like I said, it's not bad. Meaning it's
Uh-huh.
apparently he seemed to he seemed to be okay. He seemed to be okay.
Yeah.
Okay. They didn't call him the Yanuka, but still it was okay.
Fair.
לא הגיע למדרגת הינוקה, of course. But okay, nevertheless, this is a conversation. The purpose of this conversation is Rav Rabbi is objecting to what Rav Asher is about to do. So you'll see it. Now let's read this. Let's read this sugya. This is the beginning. This is the introduction. I call this the introduction to the sugya because after this introduction, we're going to get to the real sugya, which is the actual sugya that Rav Asher wanted to do. But okay, let's read it.
אוקיי, כל שוחטים לחתיכלה ושחיטתן כשלה
Okay,
בדיעבד.
okay. The premise of Rav Asher in the sugya is that when it says Hakol Shohatin, that statement is Echatachila, right? When it says Ushchitatan Keshera, that means Bedi'avad, then it makes sense. I'm telling you Hakol Shohatin. I'm telling you everybody can make Shochita. That's a Echatachila statement. Ushchitatan Keshera, it's I'm sorry, Hakol Shohatin is Lechatachila. Ushchitatan Keshera is Bedi'avad. You say, if they did Shechita, Shechitatan Keshera. So the first clause is Lechatachila. The second clause is B'di'avad. Okay.
Why would somebody لشحط like I don't get what that even means. Like,
No,
why would somebody لشحط لختخيلة
no, meaning,
even though he knows that it's only not that it's not kosher.
I'll give you an
بيعمل
example.
خلاص no?
I'll give you an example. A person, a 13-year-old comes, he says, I want to do shechita. Hakol shohatim says, "Echatayla, go do shechita. No, I want to have a chicken, I'm going to do shechita on the chicken. He's small. I want to have meat, I'm going to do shechita on a cow. So the Mishnah is saying, Hakol shohatim. Lechatachila, you can tell this person, the person wants to do shechita, yeah, you have to do shechita. Do I need, I'll give you an example. There are certain things that only Kohanim can do. There are certain things that Leviim do in the Bet HaMikdash. There are certain things that, for example, Tekiyat Shofar. Only men can do Tekiyat Shofar. Women can't because of Peturot. So we wouldn't say Hakol Tuka'im. We say maybe הכל תוקעים חוץ מאישה.
Man, like إذا حرام to
No, no,
to kill
no.
an animal.
You're not understanding. Hakol shohatin means if a person wants to eat meat, he may do shechita lechatechila. We don't tell him, no, no. The shechita. For
Uh-huh.
example, if you bring a korban in the Bet HaMikdash, there's a question. Who can do the shechita on the korban? It happens to be shechita keshira bazarim. It happens to be that's halacha. Who can do zerikat adam? Only the kohen can do zerikat adam. So here it's saying
Okay.
that lechatechila, if a person wants to eat meat, you don't need a special, qualification, authority. You go to the betin, you got a smacha from the betin. No, hakol shohatin. That's what hakol shohatin means. So it's kind of a
These
question.
days it's like a whole like it makes sense, but these days it's like a whole like crazy procedure to become a shohet probably. Now like
Oh
long.
no, no, fine, but I'm not against the procedure. You're don't. First of all,
Like
we're at the very
yeah,
beginning of the sugya. We're at the very beginning of the sugya. Reserve your judgment. All we're saying is hakol shohatin. What does that
yeah,
mean? We don't even know what that means yet. Because the second clause is ushpetatan keshera, so it's a riddle, it's a chida. So chida is when you have a statement by Chachamim that I want to explain to you exactly what a chida is. Harabam explains it in the Hakdamat of the Monei Nevuchim. A chida is when you have a statement by Chachamim where one part of the statement directly contradicts another part of the statement. Here, the
mhm,
first statement is Akol Shohatin. Anybody can do shahida. Ushchitatan keshera. Oh, no, no. If they did shechita, the shechita is kosher. Which is it? Is it lechatachila or is it b'di'avad? So he says, hakol shochatin lechatachila. Ushchitatan keshera di'avad. Yes, yes, that's correct. Hakol shochatin lechatachila, ushchitatan keshera di'avad. We're going to explain it. But the premise of the sugya is based from this chida. This is a chida, and Rav Asher is presenting it as a chida. So again, hakol shochatin lechatachila. Ushkitatan keshera di'ava. What does the riddle mean? We'll see what it means. Don't try to jump ahead.
no,
Accept the riddle. אתה מבין?
do you think there's still a riddle even with the whole tahila
Yeah, yeah,
b'diavad?
that's a riddle. Of course it's a riddle. It's not still a riddle. That is the riddle. The riddle is, how can it be hakol shohatin lechatachila ushkitatan keshera b'di'avad? What do you mean b'di'avad? It's either mutar or it's asur. You're telling me
Yeah,
lechatachila I can do shahita? No, no, b'di'avad. Oh, b'di'avad? No, no, lechatachila. Which is it? So it's a riddle.
yeah,
Okay. הכל שוחטים לכתחילה, ושאלתן כשרה דיעבד. So that's the riddle. That's almost the title. I would call it the riddle title of the Sugya. Rav Asher is giving us is he's enforcing the riddle. He's enforcing the riddle,
yeah.
right? So now on that riddle, Ravaha Bered Rava is going to push back. Okay, you good? Everything good there? Okay, so Ravaha Bered Rava again. He was a colleague of Rav Asher. He was a colleague. There was there was many great Chachamim, but there was Rav Asher, Amemar, and Mor Zutra. Eventually, Mor Zutra becomes the Rosh Yeshiva of Fombedita, and when Mor Zutra dies, Rav Aha Bered Rava becomes the Rosh Yeshiva after. Just like give you a little history. Kazeh. Okay? All right. So Akol Shochatin lechatachila. Or Shvetadan Keshera di'avad riddle. On this riddle, Rav Habarid Rava now is pushing back, and Rav Asher records the problems that Rav Habarid Rava has. So this is an introduction to the sugya. The real sugya is going to explain what does it mean Akol Shochatin lechatachila or Shvetadan Keshera di'avad. That's going to be later on. But for now, Rav Ha is pushing back on the riddle. You understand? So that's a strategy. Very interesting sugya. When you understand the sugya, it's beautiful. It really is beautiful. Somebody sent me a text message the other day that they were studying these classes that we're giving on Masekhet Holin, and he actually used the word beautiful in as much as I explained Shitat Rambam. It really is beautiful. Right? Because when you just read the sugya like it's a newspaper, you do the daf yomi, and that's what they're just reading and reading and explaining the words and explaining. You're not understanding what's happening. This is a private discussion between Rav Aha, Vered Rava, and Rav Asher, where Rav Asher is about to edit the sugya And the basis of editing the Sugya is הכל שוחטים לכתחילה ושמיטתה כשלעדי אחד. And before Rav Asher does it, Rav Acha objects. And this is the objection. And Rav Asher, in his tremendous humility, he records the objection. He didn't have to record the objection. He could have said, מי אתה בכלל? מי אתה שתאמר? מה? בגלל שאבא שלך היה רבה, מה היה? עכשיו הוא לקח אותך ברצינות? Right? But this is the way it is. So no, he actually records it. So now we see. Now you understand what's happening? Okay.
אבל לגבי לאכול הכל
לכתחילה לאכול הכל לכתחילה. When you have the word הכל, it's לכתחילה. הכל שוחטים. So because it's הכל שוחטים, you're telling me there's a riddle. What's the riddle? Because it's הכל שוחטים לכתחילה. Every time you use the word הכל, it's לכתחילה. Really? I can give you a bunch of situations where it says hakol, and it's b'diavad. Meaning your riddle is not a riddle. You're pretending. You're pretending that hakol is a chatachila. No, I'll give you a bunch of hakols and not lechatachila. So he's going to give us now. He's going to give us, I think, a total of, okay, we'll see. אלא, הכל נמירין. אלא מעטה הכל נמירין. הכי נמה. Okay. So we have a Mishnah. The Mishnah is in Masekhet Temura. Hakol memirin. That's what it says. Hakol. Same word. Now, let me explain to you what the law of memirin is. This is in Perashat Bechukotai. The law of memirin means as follows. A person sees an animal in his flock. He says, you know what? I want to give this animal as a korban. He has to do a korban. He has to bring a korban to the Bet HaMikdash. Okay. So he says, I'm going to bring it Harezo Kodesh or Harezo Shelamim. Harezo Shelamim. He says Shelamim, not Kodesh. Harezo Shelamim. Okay. Later on, he changes his mind for some reason. He says, you know what? I don't want to bring this animal as a korban to the Bet. I want to bring another animal. So I'm going to be memir the first animal with the second animal. Instead of bringing the first animal, I'll bring the second animal. That's the law of Temura. 1 second. Let me read you. Brother Tikati, I consider him to be, his explanation of the Mishnayot is, I think, one of the best explanations of the Mishnayot in Jewish history. The only thing I consider above it is Harambam, because Harambam is Harambam. But in terms of understanding the Mishnah, there's nobody like the Kati. I consider him to be one of the Rishonim. He was quote unquote chas v'shalom. I'm saying it not because I believe it, but lo היה נחשב. I think he was a banker or something. He wasn't even from the yeshiva world. He wasn't from the yeshiva world, right? Like when he was a regular person, he used to work chas v'shalom. Hopefully, when he had to find a wife, hopefully they didn't put on the resume that he works chas v'shalom because he wouldn't be able to get married. In the Haredi world, if you're working, it's the biggest hype. Like Rabbi Akiva wouldn't, or Hillel wouldn't, or none of these Tanaim would be able to get a kala. Today, Baruch Hashem, the kalot are mamash na'ot and tukanot, and they only got it with people who are unemployed bums. But nevertheless, the Kehati was a simple person, and I'm going to read to you what he says. I said, of course, laughingly, I consider him to be one of the Rishonim mamash, and I consider his perush on the Mishnah Pashut to be one of the maybe the greatest perush ever in terms of if you don't understand the Mishnah at all and you want to understand it, there's nobody like the Kehati. Okay. Mi shehikdish behema lekorban. Person was makdish a korban. Keron lehatat or leola or lishlamim. Right? For example, he has to bring a korban hatat. I know he forgot it was Shabbat. He woke up in the morning. He lit a fire. Then he realized, okay, I have to bring korban hatat kevua. So he sees in his flock, he says, Harezo lehatat. Then he changed his mind. Or lishlamim, he wants to bring a korban nedava. Harezo nedava shelamin. Asur lo lehamir ba behemat cholin shelo. He can't switch it for a chol bema. Ainu lamar al bemat hacholim, harizot hachat zo. So you see another animal, you see, no, I want this animal, the second animal, to be in place of the first animal. Harizot temulat olazo v'chadome, shneimar. And this is a pasuk from Perashat Bechukotai. Lo yachalifenu v'lo yamir oto tov bera ola b'tov. You're not allowed to switch. You're not allowed to switch the animal. Doesn't matter if the animal that you originally had was good, and now you get to switch it for a worse animal, or the animal that you originally had was not as good, and now you get to switch it for a better animal. ואם עבר בהמיר, חלה הקדושה על בהמת החולין. And if a person is, say, הריזו תמורת זו, the kedusha transfers to the second animal as well, right? כלומר, ששתי הבהמות הן קודש. Both animals are קודש. הראשונה משום קדושת הקורבן, the first animal, because you made it a קורבן. Okay, it doesn't lose. שאינה נפגעת ממנה על ידי המרה, it doesn't lose the קדושה by doing המרה. והשנייה משום קדושת התמורה. The second animal is a holy because you did temura, right? Because the pasuk says
That's a soul to do. No?
it's exactly, it's asur to do. He did isur deoraita, lo yachalifenu. ואם המר ימיר בהמה בבהמה, והיהוד תמורתו יהיה קודש. So this is a מצוות עשה שניתק לעשה. He made מצוות לא תעשה שניתק לעשה. He violated the מצוות לא תעשה. לא יחליפנו, ולא ימיר אותו טוב ברע או רע בטוב. That's מצוות לא תעשה. But then you have, ואם המר ימיר בהמה בבהמה, if you're ממיר בבהמה, right? It's ניתק לעשה. והיהוד תמורתו יהיה קודש. For example, it says, with Korban Pesach, it says, "Lo totiru mimenu ad boker." You're allowed to leave. You have to eat the whole Korban before morning, right? V'hanotan mimenu ad boker ba'esh tisrofu. And then, but if you violated the lo ta'aseh, right? Then the fixing of the lo ta'aseh is that you burn it. Not on Yom Tov, you burn it the next day because En Sofim Kadashim the Yom Tov. So you would burn it not the next day, but the day after. Okay. Another example of Misat Aseh Shenitak Le'aseh. This is one of those remarkable.
Is it like a soul to do this?
Yes, Isur de Oraita. Isur de Oraita.
Also, Shiloh Haken, am I right or no?
Ah, yes. This is one of the most remarkable features of modern orthodoxy. Instead, I hated the term orthodox. Because the term orthodox is a Christian term. So, why are you borrowing a Christian term to define who you are as a Jew?
Right.
I mean, if this isn't mental assimilation, I don't know what is. I mean, the rabbinate today, to a large extent, is perpetuating Christian and Gentile values among Am Yisrael like nobody did before. I mean, maybe the Nevi Eshek and at the days of Navi, they also were very, very successful at that. Today we don't have Nevi Eshek, we have the rabbinate. But okay, no
problem. Like an interesting pasuk today, and I think I don't know. I felt like it's definitely not like the original meaning of what the pasuk means.
Yes.
But I also felt like it's too much of a coincidence to not read it like today in a certain tone of thought.
So tell me, what are you thinking? Tell me the pasuk.
Maybe it's like a stupid idea.
I'm gonna hear it. Tell me.
Is the video on or off?
It's on. You want to shut it?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
I'll pause. Where are you reading from? Yeshaya what?
Yeshaya Samechet Pasuk Daled.
Yeshaya Samechet Pasuk Daled. Okay, read the pasuk.
יושבים בקברים ובניסורים ילינו, האוכלים בשר חזיר ומרק בקולים כליהם.
Explain it. So it's making fun of the people who dwell among the Kevarim, but the whole Hasidic movement and all, like in Israel today, there's the greatest spiritual elation is to go visit the Kivrot Tzadikim. and they spend the
yeah,
night and they're going from one kever tzaddik to another. It's the greatest spiritual relation. And Yeshaya Navi is mocking these people, right? But what was your chidush about Nesurim? Nesurim, the peshat of Nesurim is milashon matzor, that they close in within the walls of the graveyard. But what did you have about Nesurim?
it's like too similar to the word of
Notzri,
Nutri.
right? Christian, right? They're remnants to
Yeah.
Christianity, right? Exactly.
غريب بتاع حدين
By
but
the way, you
like
know, man, the
like that's
Christians,
the you
yeah, yeah, exactly. By the way,
know
that's a nice point. The Christians, they would have the graveyard next to the church. Always a graveyard was next to the church. Isn't that interesting? Because there was a
yeah
certain, right? And then they have the idea of the Jesus, Yamach Shemo V'Zichro, who's dead, and they're worshiping this dead, or he's alive, or he can't,
yeah
yes, okay, whatever. Um, In Vela V'Rafya B'Yadeh. Okay. The point is that the point is a very nice kiddush. Melashon Notzim and Besara Chazir, which is the
yeah.
exactly in Spain, they used to eat a lot of pig. Okay,
You want to explain what the midrash about Caleb ben Yifune in Hebron is?
no.
It's maybe شاهد. Like I said, is משתטח על
Mishtatei
קברים.
al Keves Tzadikim. Yes, I explained that because Melashon Shetach, that he's saying this proves that we belong here. It wasn't Mishtatei,
Yeah,
right? Mishtatei Melashon Shetach. People say, oh, he was
yeah,
praying to the Kabbalah. Chas v'shalom. What is stupid praying?
yeah,
Mishtateach, this was a political statement. He was mishtateach, milashon shetach. This is our land, and here's a proof that this is our land. And that's why he didn't lo nishtatef
yeah,
be'asat meraglim. He said, this is our land. It's ours. And the proof is Abraham, Isaac, and Yaakov, mishtateach al kivrot tzadikim. That's what it means, mishtateach, milashon shetach, not mitpalel, not this. It doesn't matter. This is- Okay. Okay, thank you. So let's continue. So the point is, let me explain to you. Now, so this is a mispat aseh shenitak la'aseh. The point you were making about shiluach haken is correct. Everybody wants to make isur deoraita of shiluach haken, right? Right? Lo tikach haim al banim. It's isur deoraita, but it's lav hanitak le'aseh. Right? But if you do it, shaliach teshalach hatayim, right there. Now the problem is that many of the people do the isur deoraita, but they don't have the opportunity to do the aseh, like fixes the lot aseh. Okay, I never heard of it. Person, I'm not going to eat the korban pesach. I'm going to leave it till the morning. Make isur lot aseh, isur deoraita. Because like this, I get to do misvat aseh of burning the korban pesach. Very nice. And what happens if a dog comes and grabs the korban pesach and then you can't burn it?
yeah.
I mean, really? I mean, again,
Uh,
I think the modern rabbinate today is one of the primary reasons that we have burut, amarasut, Christian values, Gentile values. Among the Hasidim, more paganism. Among the Haredim, more Christian. Okay.
yeah,
Yeah, Besara Hazir is a mashal for pagan ideas, the most repulsive pagan ideas. That's called Besara Hazir, right? That's what the Besara Hazir is. Okay. And by the way, it's a very nice point that you made that it's a mashal for Christianity in Spain because the Hakamim make a big deal that the Hazir is maflis parsa, but not ma'ale gera. So the Hakamim made a big deal that he shows, look, I'm a kosher animal, look. But on the inside, he's not ma'ale gera. But he said, no, how do you know? You can't tell. That's the Christians. The Christians, they always make it seem that they're better than the Jews. Look at us, we're good.
yeah,
So the Besara Hazir is a mashal for the Christian values, where externally, oh, look, we're the religion of love, how much we love you, and this and that, but on the inside, it's filth, it's dirt, right? So this is that's the mashal, that's the Besara Hazir. Also, that's why it's used as a mashal for the Haredim. In the last chapter of Yeshaya, it says, "Hamit hamitaharim el haganot, ahar, ahar batavech, ochele b'sar hachazir ve'hashekes ve'achbar yachdav yasufu, ne'um Hashem." I said ne'um Hashem because I may have misquoted the pasuk. Megach ubenka, hamit hasidim ve'hamitaharim. This is the Haredi world. They're not Hasidim, they're mitchasdim. You understand? He's saying people who pretend to be Hasidim, people who pretend to be Tahor, they go to the mikveh, this and that, and then they'll see Chazit Chayal Tzal coming back from Lebanon, they'll spit on his face. I mean, I've seen videos. I wish you died. I wish you died in Lebanon. I mean, it's just unbelievable. The Haredi world today is an abomination in the eyes of the Almighty. A simple abomination. All right, mechila. Let's get back to the Gemara. So we're dealing here with the laws of
Yeah.
Hamara. So the laws of Hamara, basically, it's a misvat lo ta'aseh shenitak le'aseh. And normally, when you have a misvat lo ta'aseh shenitak le'aseh, there's no malkut. Here, there is malkut. There's three misvot. There's three misvot. Lo ta'aseh shenitakot le'aseh. And af al pi shenitakot le'aseh, there's malkut. Only three. One is nishba, shavuot shaker. The other is memir, which is what we're studying here. And the other is mikalel chavero b'Hashem. These are the three lavin that lokin alehem, right? And the reason in this case, is because there's two lavin, right? There's two lavin. Since there's two lavin, right? So because of that, there is the misvat aseh. It doesn't cure the two lavin. The misvat aseh cures one lav, not two lavin. Okay?
Well, because
I'm sorry?
because you
Right. It's because it says lo yachalifenu velo yamiroto. So it's two lavin.
uh,
And because it's two lavin, the misvat aseh, it cures it, and yet it's malkut.
if it doesn't mean two different stuff, and if you're only doing like
Okay, when we study the laws of Temurah, we can get into that. But the point is, but I want you to understand. So now you understand the question of Rav Habere de Rava. Here it says Hakol Memirin. Hakol Memirin, Echad ha'anashim ve'echad ha'nashim. That's what the Mishnah says. Hachina med lechatachillahu. This is lechatachillah? Really? V'haketiv. לא יחליפנו ולא ימיר אותו תופרה אורה בטוב. Only זה חתיכה. הכל ממינים זה חתיכה? Really? We tell people go do המרה? How can that be? It says לא יחליפנו. So Rav Ashi explains it. Now he says, הטעם, כבוד. Last word on the line.
كتني طعم لا
לא שהאדם
לא שהאדם רשאי להמיר, אלא שאם המיר מומה
doesn't mean that a
ספק
person,
רחמי.
you got it. Best of I think exactly. It doesn't mean when it says hakol memirin, it doesn't mean hakol memirin you should do hamara. It's saying anybody who does hamara, the hamara is an effective hamara. That's what it means. Hakol memirin doesn't mean tfadalu bechavod. Come do the hamara. Hakol memirin means anybody who does hamara, the hamara is a hamara. לא שהאדם רשאי להמיר, it's not giving you permission להמיר, said please do המרה. אם המיר, מומר, וסופג את ה-40, right? So here it's, of course it's not לכתחילה, הכל ממירים. It's לכתחילה in the sense that there's no question that if they do the המרה is a המרה. There's no לכתחילה בדיעבד because it's איסור דאורייתא to do המרה. It's just telling you that if a person does hamara, you might think that if a person does hamara, maybe the hamara is not a hamara. Maybe it says no, hakol meminin, whoever is included in hakol. Okay?
And that's not lechatechila. So
Meaning,
that's why
it is lechatechila. It's the idea of lechatechila, not lechatechila, is inapplicable here. Because of course lechatechila you can't do hamara. But the idea of hakol meminin is coming to teach you that anybody who does hamara, the hamara is effective. Right. 1 second. Okay. All right. Okay, let's go.
Okay.
And בסופג את ה-40, and נפקא מינה to teach us that he gets malkut 40, right? Not a pleasant prospect. So he says, no, I was 14, I was 15, no. Malkut 40, בסופג את ה-40. Okay, so that was the first case of Akol, which was in Lechatachila, but again, the idea of Lechatachila is inapplicable in a situation like Hamara. Ella.
I think it's like the word akol here means like kulam, let's say, maybe.
כולם שהמירו, כולם שהמירו, סופגים את ה-40. Right. Yes.
Okay. إلا הכל
מעריכים ונערכים.
נערכים, נודרים ונדרים.
הכי נמר. הכי נמר. Okay,
Hakitiv.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me explain to you first what the Mishnah says. This is the Mishnah Masekhet Alachin. The Mishnah Masekhet Alachin says Hakol Ma'arichin v'Ne'elachin. So there's two similar concepts. A person can say, for example, wants to bring a donation to the Beit HaMikdash. He says, "Erki alai." He says, "Erki alai" means I'm going to bring my value. Erech means my fixed value to the Beit HaMikdash, fixed value. Or I look at a child, I say, I want to bring Erko alai. You point to the child, say, Erko alai. Erech peloni alai. I want to bring his value to the Beit HaMikdash. Or Erka alai. I want to bring her value to the Beit HaMikdash. So Hakol ma'arichin means anybody can do make the it's a type of neder. Anybody can make the neder ma'arichin. Then erachin means and anybody can be subject to the neder in the sense that not subject to the neder, be the object of the neder. That's a better word. So anybody can say erko alai, erka alai, erech peloni alai, and it's they have an obligation now. Or anybody can be the object of the neder. I just said the child is the object of my neder. Yes, the neder is a neder. She's the object of my neder. Yes, the neder is a neder. Right? So hakol ma'arichin ben erachin. Move on. Right now, um, that's one concept. Now, what monetary value do you actually bring? So the answer is it's a fixed sum set forth and specified in Perashat Bechukotai. Perashat Bechukotai has a table, a list of people, their ages, whether it's a man, whether it's a woman, what the ages are, and it's a fixed table of what amount you have to bring to the Beit HaMikdash, irrespective if the person is big, small, strong, weak, smart, not smart. Hakol, everything is the fixed number given in Perashat Bechukotai. That's called a ha'aracha, right? And then you have niddarim. Let me explain to you what the neder here it's talking about here. One second. So instead of saying erki alai, you can say damai alai, or right, or deme peloni alai, right, or dameha alai, right, dameha alai. So um, um, in that case, you will not bring the value specified in Perashat Bechukotai, but you would actually value how much that person is worth, like as a servant. So on the servant, there's a market for servants. We need a construction worker. This person can be in construction work, for example. So he's worth ABC. Maybe this person, I don't know, is good at farming, I don't know, plowing the land, whatever it is. So everybody has a value as a servant, right? And labor value. So that the Betin will establish what the value is, but it would be based on the actual person. If he's big, if he's strong, obviously it's going to be a better value. If it's weak and not so smart, maybe a less good value. You understand? So that's nidarim, hakol noderim. The nidarim. Anybody can make a neder, and anybody can be the object of the neder, right? You understand the Mishnah?
Yeah. Yeah.
Achina de lechatachila. Also here, you want to say it's a chatachila? Really? The haketiv.
והכתיב, וכי תחדל מן דור, לא יהיה לך חטא.
If you don't make a neder, you're not going to have any avera. The implication of the pasuk is if you make a neder, it's an avera to make a neder. You shouldn't be making nedarim. Okay? וכתיב.
כתיב, טוב, שלא תדור, שתדור ולא תשלם.
Better not to make a neder than to make a neder and then not pay.
שתדור ולא תשלם. אוקיי, בתניא, טוב מזה ומזה שאינו נודר, טוב מזה ומזה שאינו נודר, כל עיקר.
The best thing,
דברי רבי מאיר.
right, the best thing is not to make any nedarim. Just don't make any nedarim. That's what Rabbi Meir says.
דברי רבי,
תבלה רבי מאיר. טוב, מזה ומזה שאין עוד כל העיקר. תבלה רבי מאיר. רבי יהודה אומר.
טוב מזה ומזה נודר ומשלם.
No, Rabbi Yehuda says, no, it's better. The best thing is to make a neder and to pay. But even Rabbi Yehuda says the best thing is to make a neder and to pay. But afilu Rabbi Yehuda lo ka'ama, the Gemara explains, what does Rabbi Yehuda mean when he says it's better to make a neder and pay? Ela,
ואומר, הרי זו, אבל,
ala,
כן,
arezo, arezo. When does Rabbi Yehuda say it's better to make a neder and pay? In the case of a nedava, there's a difference in neder and nedava. Let me explain to you the difference, and then you'll understand the omek of Rabbi Yehuda. A person goes to his flock. He's a beautiful flock. Says, I'm making a neder now that I'm going to bring a cow to the as a korban.
כן,
Okay, and then he chooses a cow and he says, "This I'm going to now bring the cow to the Bet Hamikdash," and then something happens, the cow runs away. The original neder still stays. He made a neder, I'm going to bring a cow to the Bet Hamikdash as a korban shilamim. Let's say korban shilamim. Hare alai korban shilamim, and then he goes, Hare alai para le korban shilamim. Let's just say. Okay, so he goes, he brings a cow. Cow runs away, can't find it. And so bring another cow. Maybe he doesn't have money for another cow. Maybe he doesn't even have another cow. Maybe he had one cow. Doesn't matter. He has to bring a cow. He said he made an neder. In that case, when a person says, Hare alai korban shilamim, you shouldn't do it, even according to the Yehuda. When does Rabbi Yehuda say it's better to make a neder and pay it? When it's a nedava. Nedava means you go to your sheep, you go to your cows, you say, this animal is a korban shilamim. You point this, that's called the nedava.
yeah,
There's a Masekhet Megillah, Ma ben Nedarim und Davot, right? In the beginning of my first chapter, Masekhet, שהנדרים חייב באחריותם, והנדבות אינו חייב באחריותן. This is from Mishnah Masekhet Megillah, the first chapter. What does it mean, חייב באחריותן? In the case of a neder, you didn't say I'm giving this cow. You say I'm giving a cow. Okay, you took a cow and you wanted to bring it to the Beit Mikdash and it ran away. It saw the shachita knife of the Kohen, got terrified, ran. Everybody's chasing the cow. That's it. It's gone. There was a case, I forgot where it was, in one of these Bet Shechitot, where there was a cow that somehow escaped. He was so terrified, and somehow cows never escape, but somehow he ran through all the barriers and jumped, and they kol kach rahamu alav. They said it was like a hero cow that they let him go. They said, you know what? I forgot what he was called. Once read a New York Times article. So they let him go. Okay. So that's what happened. Torah ran away. So now you have to bring Hayab Harayutam, means you have to bring another cow. That's not where the Yehuda says that it's good to make a neder and pay. But if it's a nedava, you say, I'm bringing this specific cow to the Bet HaMikdash, right?
Yeah.
And the cow gets a heart attack and dies. That's it. Eno Hayab Harayutam. He's not Hayab. He said this cow is no longer available. That's it.
But I guess maybe like the thought behind what Buddha is saying is that like in the first case there might be a situation where it's like a big hit for you that you had like a smachta that you're bringing this specific cow, and now that it left, it's like you're okay, whatever. You need to bring a different one, but you thought you were going to bring that one. You might not be able to afford the new one.
Exactly. You might not be able to afford it. What are you going to do? But you have to bring it. It doesn't matter afford, not afford. You have to bring it. You made an end out.
As opposed to the second one where
That's it. I made an edava. The animal halach le'olamo got a heart attack. Maybe he saw the shaitanite, got a heart attack and died. You know, said סידוק הדין, הריני מקבל על עצמי 4 מיתות בדין, סקילה, שרפה, הרג וחיירק, and on the spot he got a heart attack and died. Okay. לשם ייחוד קדושה בריחו, בתחילו ולחילו, אני מקבל 4 מיתות בדין, סקילה, שרפה, הרג וחיירק, and that's it. Before the guy could do the shachita, the animal died. Okay. All right. So even the Yehuda, lo ka'amar, ela be'omer, harezo. Harezo means that's a nedava. You point at the animal. Zo means you're pointing. The iktik pronoun, as Jeda said in his article. You're pointing. Eno chayba harayuta. Aval omer, hare alai. But to say a neder, lo, no. So everybody agrees, Tov asher lo tidor mishitidor, or whatever, Tov asher lo tidor, period. Tov asher lo tidor, right? So when it says, Hakol noderim v'nitarim, it's la lecha techila. It's b'di'avad, im nadarta. Okay. So they say no. No. The answer is, the whole. So now Rav Ashi is going to push back on Rav Aha from another direction. Because here we really see that a person shouldn't make an neder. So Rav Ashi is going to push back. And he's going to say, look, okay, you brought me an example where it says Hakol, and it's not lechatachila. You brought the example. Very good. I'm going to ask you a question. Are you making an argument on the other direction? Are you saying that every time it says Hakol, it's only b'di'avad? Is that what you're saying? Is that what you're saying? I'm saying that here in our Mishnah, Hakol shohatin is lechatachila. You're saying, no, Hakol should be b'di'avad. So you brought me two examples. Really? So you're saying that whenever it says Hakol, it's b'di'avad. That's your position, right? Right?
I don't know. I understand the Gemara a little bit differently, honestly.
Go on.
I don't think he's definitely saying lav lechatechila equals b'diavad. Lav lechatechila.
No, lav lechatechila is b'di'avad. It's either lechatechila or b'di'avad. There's no in between. There's no in between.
Which isn't. I think it's just something not shaykh to say b'diavad or lechatechila from the examples, no?
Well, no, I mean.
Actually, I don't know, actually. Fine.
Right, okay.
Okay, I don't know.
So it says, V'chol hakol lechatechila. So are you trying to tell me that whenever it says hakol, it's not lechatechila? I'll give you examples. Ella. We're gonna be done soon. We're gonna be done with the introduction, and we're gonna stop because I know it's Shabbat by you soon. I don't wanna this. Ella.
I have time. Okay, Ella. Wait, so, just to like summarize in my head for a second, you had the first example of Temura, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, and then we had another example about how you could be the object.
הכל עורכים ונערכים נודרים ונדרים.
Okay.
And then we saw it's not lechatachila because it says וכי תחדל לנדור לא יהיה לך חטא.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, the reason I felt like lechatechila is just love lechatechila is nothing in regards to lechatechila or b'diavad is because of the first example. But I guess for the last two examples.
No, but even the first example, it is correct to say that if a person made temura, did temura, that's it. It's mumar, meaning it's mumar. It's the animal is the second animal is kadosh. That's what it means. The chatechila. If a person does this isur, lechatechila, the second animal is kadosh. Is kodesh. Is kodesh. Okay. All right. Let's continue. So now Rav Ashi is going to push back. So you're telling me that a kol is b'di'avad, and therefore, when I said a kol shochatin means the chatechila, you're saying no, it has to be b'di'avad. Is that what you're saying? אלא הכל חייבים בסוכה, או בסוכה, הכל חייבים בסוכה.
הכל חייבים בסיסית.
Right.
בלב לכתחילה.
So he says also הכל חייבים בסוכה. אז לכתחילה, of course, לכתחילה. לכתחילה, הכל חייבים בסוכה. לכתחילה, הכל חייבים בסיסית. הכי נמד אליו לכתחילה, ברור לו לכתחילה. So he answers, Rabbi Hadare de Rabbi answers, Hayyavin.
Yavin, Laka Amina.
Laka Amina.
Laka Amina.
No. Here it says Hakol Hayyavin. It adds the word Hayyavin. What makes it Lechatachila is not the word Hakol. The reason I call hayavim besukah is because it says hayavim.
Mhm.
Here it doesn't say hayav. I mean, the words, of course, it doesn't say hayavim. Hakol hayavim besisit. Why is it lechatechila? Because it says hayavim.
Ah,
That's not a proof. Hayavim
ah,
lakamina. Again, you have to understand
ah,
the Hachamim, they encoded their wisdom, or whatever it is they wanted to encode, the wisdom, the Pesakim of the Betin Gadol, the Sanhedrin, they were very meticulous in language. So you can't say Hakol is the same as Hakol Haimim. By the way, people always ask me questions against the Rambam. The Rambam says this, and the Rambam and this. And if you medayek the lashon of Rambam, the question is not a question. 99% of the questions they ask about the Rambam, and this and that. And somebody said because the Rambam says that Mechalal Shabbos is not a Jew, and therefore we can't be with Medinat Israel because we can't be associated with the Chilonim because they're not Jewish, and therefore we should be in favor of the Palestinians. Right? We Right. No, but I'm not even making. I saw a video with somebody interviewing one of these. Yani, right? It's okay to be in favor of people that that put babies in ovens. That's okay. But the Chalal Shabbos is not a Jew. How can you want me to be in with them? I'll work with Arafat. Okay, Arafat is good. Mele. I mean, yes, the Hamas they raped women and they did horrible atrocities and okay, but this isn't the Chalal Shabbos. I mean, these people, I keep going. These people are mentally deranged. We literally half of Am Yisrael is mentally deranged. I'm sorry, I have no other way of putting it. Maybe it's not half, maybe it's a third, maybe it's 10%. I don't know what it is. But I mean, the problem is that we don't have enough mental asylums in Am Yisrael. If we had more mental asylums instead of yeshivas, we would be in a much better place than we are today. But okay, benkach or benkach. Okay. Ela me'ata.
الميعاد كل صميخين أحد الأناشيم في أحد الأناشيم حين ماد لفلحة خلا.
There's a law that when you bring a korban, you have to make a semicha, right? And right after you do the semicha, you do the shechita, right? There's a Gemara.
Make your hand on it?
Yeah, the Gemara in Berachot Membet. I forgot if it's Amud Aleph or Amud Bet. Right? שלוש תקפות הן. תכף לשמיכה שחיטה, תכף לנטילה, תכף לגאולת תפילה, תכף לנטילה ברכה. The nitila here is מים אחרונים. So it says, תכף לשמיכה שחיטה. So you bring the korban, you do semicha. So the person who's bringing the korban has to put his hands on the head of the animal and say, hatati, aviti, pashati. And immediately after the semicha, they do shechita. Here, when it says Hakol Somechin, it's the Chatechila. The person who brings the Korban is the one who should do the Semicha. And this is Badal Chatechila. Right? Okay? So Hakol Somechin Echad HaAnashim. Echad HaAnashim doesn't matter who's bringing the Korban. Okay? Achina me Delav Lechatechila. You said, of course it's a Chatechila. You're saying this is not a Techila. Of course it's a Techila. והכתיב ושמח ידו ונשא, the pasuk says ושמח ידו, and because he's somech yado, meaning the person bringing the korban, samach yado benirsa, there's going to be kapara. So it's bevadaut is the chatechila. So now we're going to have the answer of Rav Asher, the final answer. In means yes.
בוודאות.
No, the samach yado is a pasuk. It's telling you the person who brings the korban samach yado. And then the pasuk says benirsa lo lechaper alav, and it's going to be the korban is to be.
Mishnah thing. It means that the Mishnah thing לכתחילה.
Right. So when the Mishnah says Hakol Somechin, of course it's a Chatechila. The Vadaut is a Chatechila. Of course, Hakol Somechin. You have an obligation when you bring a korban to do semicha. Right. So he says in means yes. Ika is, by the way, you can't understand the Gemara unless you speak Yiddish. That's you have to know that. Although in is like the of the Arabic, but still you need to know Yiddish to understand the real meaning of in. Okay, in Ika hakol lechatechila, v'ika hakol di'avad. There is some cases in the Mishnah where it says hakol. Where's lechatechila? Like here, hakol chayavin.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, hakol somechin. הכל סומכים. That's a chatechila. בעיקר, but there are some cases where it's בדיעבד. Like, הכל עורכים ונערכים, נודרים ונדרים. So, I mean, a kol is not a term that on its own encodes lechatechila. It's not a term that on its own encodes v'di'avad. It doesn't encode either of those things. Sometimes it's lechatechila, sometimes it's v'di'avad, right? Ella, the better question you should have asked me, Ravaha Beredirava. If you want to ask me a good question, you could have asked me the following question. Hakol dehacha. Ella, hakol dehacha. You have the place?
لا
Mimai delechatachillahu.
بما يدري خط حله.
How do you know that in this case, when it says hakol shohatin, how do you know that hakol here must be lechatachila? I have a reason. The tikshelach.
In the case of Hakol Shohatin.
Yeah. How do you know that in this case, where it says hakol shohatin, it means hakol shohatin lechatekilah? Why am I coming out with that assumption? And you're going to see by like why he comes out with that assumption. Because there's a whole tradition of studying the Mishnah in exactly that way. And now Rav Asher is about to edit the Sugya, and he's going to bring you all these Chachamim who study the Sugya as he's saying it. But he wants to have this introductory argument with Rav Haber et Rabbah, who pushes back and says, no. So he says, how do you know that here when it says, Ella, Hakol Shohatin Dehacha, here, where it says Hakol Shohatin, how do I know that in this case it's a techila? You're telling me it's a chatechila, and therefore there's a kushya. What's a kushya? Because ushkatatan geshelah is the abad. Dilma the abad vela tikshelah. Okay. So Mechila, I misinterpreted the dialogue. I misinterpreted the dialogue. Meaning, I misinterpreted who's saying what. So it's who's saying in ika kol delechatechila ika kol divya. That's not Rav Asher. That's Rav Aha Bered Rava. Rav Aha Bered Rava is telling Rav Asher, look. And now you're going to see the omek of Rav Aha Bered Rava. Rav Aha Bered Rava is saying in. You're right. You're right. You, Rav Asher, are right. Ika hakol lechatechila. Some cases where it says hakol, it's a chatechila, obviously. Hakol somechin. I agree. Some cases where it says hakol, you would acknowledge, you, Rav Asher, would have to agree with me, Rav Haber Rabbah, that yes, some cases is di'avad, like hakol orechin ben erachin noderim v'nedarim. Ella, my question, I, Rav Haber Rabbah, my question is as follows: hakol dehacha. Here, in this case, where it says hakol shohatin, mimai delachatechillahu. Who told you it's a chatechila? Why do you have to come with the assumption that it's lechatechila? The tikshelach, and by saying hakol shochatin, now you have the kushya. And based on this kushya, you can have your whole series of sugyot, a whole sugya, right? You're creating an artificial problem. By the way, this is intellectually, there's a thing called in science, it's called Occam's razor. Occam's razor is a scientific principle that says that if I can give you a simple scientific principle to explain phenomenon in a simple way, and then there's another way to explain it in a very complex way where there's contradictions and issues, Occam's razor says, go to the simple solution. That's what Occam's razor says. So what he's saying is very true. You're telling me I have a whole... Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Even if there's a contradiction, like if both...
Yes, but correct, you're right. But here, what he's saying, Rav Haber is saying there is no contradiction. You created the contradiction. You, Rav Asher, created a contradiction. You decided that a kol shohatin has to be lechatachila, and therefore there's a contradiction between a kol shohatin ushchitatan di'avad, which shchitatan di'avad is ushchitatan keshera. I'm sorry, is di'avad. You created the contradiction. By the way, they do this in the yeshiva world all the time. The Rambam says in one place he says this, in another place he says that. It's difficult. There's a kashya, there's a contradiction in the Rambam. I'm going to explain the contradiction. And then 99% of the time, there's no contradiction. You're just sloppy reading. This is a great sugya, So Rav Haba and Rabbi is saying, look, you're telling me hakol shuchatin is lechatechila. I'll give you a very simple solution. Occam's razor. Hakol shuchatin is the avad. There's no contradiction between hakol shuchatin and shritatan keshera. Hakol shuchatin is the avad. Shritatan keshera is the avad. Thank you. So you don't have to give me this whole sugya, the whole next amud or daf, the whole thing. I don't need to hear it because I disagree with your complex explanation of the Mishnah.
أنا شحتة كشيالي سكتني
Wait, hold on. I lost a place. אלא, הכל דהחי, ממאי דלכתחילה דתקשלך. I know, we read it, right? I'm just going to read it again. When it says here, הכל shohatim, why are you saying that it's lechatachila? Am I saying it's lechatachila? You're creating a problem, and there's a kushya, dinma, maybe really, di'avadu. Maybe it's di'avad. Vela tikshelach, and don't give me your whole kushya, and don't give me this whole sugya that we're about to read now. Dinma di'avadu, vela tikshelach. Just tell me hakol shohatim is di'avad, and therefore I don't want to hear your kushiot, and I don't want to hear the answer. Don't give me not your kushiot, your problems, and not the answer to your problems. There's no problem to begin with, so I don't need the answer to the problem, right? If I don't have acid indigestion, I don't need any Malox for acid indigestion. That's what he's saying, right? No, you have acid indigestion. No, I don't. I actually feel quite good with myself. Right? The doctors, they always want to overprescribe. Okay, Amale. So Rav Ashi is gonna say what he's gonna say. Amale.
شحتة كشيالي מתקטנה, שחיטתם כשגתי עבף.
Mikela.
דהכל לכתחילה הוא...
Okay, and this is a very, right. And this is a very rabbinic approach. The idea of editing the Mishnah by Rabbeinu HaKadosh was to create a very dense literary encoding of rabbinic memory. If you're going to tell me that Akol Shohatin is also the Avad, then I have a much more greater problem. And the greater problem is that Rabbeinu HaKadosh, Chas v'Shalom, botched up the Mishnah. Akol Shohatin u'shchitatan keshera. Why are you saying Akol Shohatin u'shchitatan keshera? Right? It's redundant. I'm going to read it again. Amar le'anan shechitatan keshera kashgali. Rav Ashi is saying, look, we have the second clause, shechitatan keshera. If you're saying Akol Shohatin is the avad, like you want to say, then I don't need to say ushchitatan keshera. Midikatane, shechitatan keshera, the avad. So when it says shechitatan keshera, we all agree that's the avad. So why do I need the clause? And therefore I have to reach a conclusion that when it says akol shohatin, it's a chatachila, right? Meaning I'm not creating an artificial problem, says Rav Ashi. This artificial problem is not artificial. This artificial problem or this problem was created by Rabbeinu HaKadosh intentionally. Rabbeinu HaKadosh intentionally formulated the Mishnah as he did, and the formulation of the Mishnah is a problem. I'm not the problem. The problem is the way that Rabbeinu HaKadosh formulated the Mishnah. If you're going to tell Akol Shohatin is the Avad, like you want to say, Mr. Ravaha, Bered Rava, then we don't need Ushkitatan Kesha, just say Akol Shohatin. Right? So the problem is not created by me. I'm not the one creating the acid indigestion, if I may go back to my earlier mashal. Rabbeinu HaKadosh is the one who formulated the Mishnah. I can't ignore the way he formulated the Mishnah. So it says, "Midikatane shechitatan keshera di'avad." We all agree on one thing. When it says shechitatan keshera, that's b'di'avad. That lashon is di'avad. Everybody agrees on that. Mikelal dehakol lechatachila. So it has to be hakol shuchatin is lechatachila, right? Otherwise, Rabbeinu Hakadosh is using very sloppy, undense language. It's like um, there's a pasuk that says "Vekol kesil berob devarim bar minan chas v'shalom." We even say that about any chacham, right? The
Yeah.
chachamim, right? Vedaat sefatai barur millelu, right? That's a pasuk in Yov. The chachamim speak with very refined language. They don't just throw words around. And bevadaut in the Mishnayot, nobody's throwing words around in the Mishnayot, right? So mikelal dehakol lechatachila de'idi avad. Because if you're going to say hakol shohatin is b'di'avad, tarte di'avad namali, why do I need two di'avads?
Yeah.
Now, I just want to read one more, four more words, right? Read the next four words.
دقيق دعافيت أغتيت دعافات
No,
نمالي
the avad. If you're going to say hakol
دقيق
shohatin is the
دعافات
avad, tarte the avad lamali. Why do I need two the avads? Kol shohatin the avad, u'shatan kesher the avad. I don't need that. So it's barur that no. I want you to read the next four words. Amar, starting with the word amar.
أباب
Yeah, amar abba bar ulla.
رباب بغلا
Okay, stop. That's it.
أخي
That's it. That's it. Rabba bar ulla.
رباب بغلا.
Rabba bar ulla. When did he live? He was fourth generation Emora. He was a friend of Abaye and Rabba, two generations before this. Okay, let's go down to the next page because he's going to give a particular explanation. Go down to Gimel Amud Aleph, about 6 lines from the top. You're going to have there the last word on the line. Abaye, Abaye Amar. Okay, very good. Go down another 1/3 of the page. Eventually, you're going to see the word Rava. Rava gives a different explanation. Amar Rava, first word of the line. Go to the next page. Okay, I don't understand this. Nobody even asked a question. The Pele is, nobody even asked a question. I don't understand. Who came first? Rabba bar Ullah, on the one hand, Abaye, Rava, or Ravashe, and Ravaha ben Rava. Nobody even asked a question. Rabba bar Ullah already explained the Mishnah lechatechila b'di'avad. Abaye already explained the Mishnah lechatechila b'di'avad. Rava explains the Mishnah lechatechila b'di'avad. How is this conversation even taking place? And the answer is simple. It's exactly the way I explained it. But once I explain the sugya the way I explained it, it's pashut. Rav Ashi is about to edit the sugya. These discussions took place during the Yarchei Kala. And now Rav Ashi, he's collecting the shiurim that took place during the Yarchei Kala. And he has to decide, what does he include in the Gemara? Maybe there's some things he excluded. We have no way of knowing what he excluded because it was excluded. And as he's editing this specific sugya, of course he knows that Rabba Ba'ullah gives his explanation. And of course he knows the explanation of Ravayan, the explanation of Rava, there's a few more explanations. But as he's about to edit the sugya, Ravaha Bereh de Rava is probably in the yeshiva, and they're having a conversation as to how he's going to edit the sugya. And he's saying, how are you accepting this explanation of the Mishnah? All of the explanations that Rabba Barullah gives, that Abaye gives, that Rabba gives, is based upon the idea that Hakol Shohatin Lechatachila, Ushkatan Kesha B'Di'ava. Comes Ravaha Bered Rabba, and he pushes back. He says, what type of premise is this? What type of starting point is this? Just say Hakol Shohatin B'Di'ava, or Ushkatan Kesha B'Di'ava. How are you giving me this whole sugya that you're about to give me? And now you understand, after Rav has a conversation with Rav Ashi, and everybody agrees, yes, this is the way to understand the Mishnah. Hakol shohatin lechatachila u'shkitatan keshat b'di'avad. Now we're going to bring the sugya. And now we have the Sugya, which gives a different explanations of the Mishnah, all based upon the same principle. Nobody even asks the question, Shalom. Nobody even asks the question. What are they arguing about?
Nobody asked which question. I don't get it.
Meaning, usually you bring a Gemara, you bring this rabbi, like in the first, like the Sugya in Masekhet, in Perek Elu Terefot. The Sugya in Perek Elu Terefot is, at first it brings, in Mem Daled, Amud Aleph, it brings the, I'm sorry, Mem Bab Amud Aleph. Rav, Shemuel, Rav Aseh, Dorishon. Then it brings a later generation, then brings later generation. Because there's a conversation, there's a development of the law. You know, the people of the last generation discussing and the people of the earlier generation discussing. Where are you coming from? It makes no sense. How are you organizing the Sugya? This is where to organize the Sugya. Mem Bab Amud Aleph, Rav Shmuel, Rav Aseh, first generation of Moraim. Then we have the Talmid of Rav.
The Wahab people at the start, I mean, that he's organizing it at the start and then bringing.
I mean, that's right. The question is how you bring it there. Exactly. You have to follow some sort of order. You don't bring the last generation and then bring the first and the second and the third. What?
Yeah.
So if you look at the Sugya Mem Vav Amud Aleph, Rav Shemuel Rav Aseh, first generation of Moraim, to make a statement. Comes Rav Yosef bar Minyomi in the name of Rav Nachman, who is a Talmid of Shemuel, who's born in the first statement, Shemuel, and he explains something that we now understand Shemuel's statement better. Later on comes Rava, who's later generation. It's not Rabbah, it's Rava, and he explains an additional thing. So the Sugya is organized in an intelligent manner, meaning we have and this is the way Sugyot are organized. You have the Mishnah, then you have with the Tanaim, maybe, and Moraim, first generation, later, and it builds up, and then we finally reach a conclusion. Here you have Rabbi Chava and Rabbi Asher discussing something that was already decided by Rabbah, by Ullah, by Abaye, by Rava. What are you having a discussion about? And the answer is he's about to put it into the Gemara as a formal sugya, and Rabbi Chava is pushing back. He's pushing back. How are you accepting their interpretation of the Mishnah? It's a very good question. And he says, here's why. And now that he says, here's why I accept their interpretation, he brings their interpretation. You can't just bring the interpretation without addressing what type of explanation is this? How are you interpreting the Mishnah this way? So he starts with the idea, how are we interpreting the Mishnah? He explains it. And then he brings the various interpretations of the Mishnah, which is the next part of the Sugya.
But is the reason that he didn't listen to Ahab, the Gava, right?
Yeah.
Is because he's saying that it's too many words.
I mean, yeah, because right. We can say Hakol Shochatim Di'avad Ushkitatan Keshera Di'avad, but we never have a situation where Rabbeinu Hakadosh just throws words around. It would be a very sloppy editing of the Mishnah. And davar shekazeh, chas v'shalom. So between a sloppy editing of the Mishnah, we realize that this is not a sloppy editing. We realize this is a chidah. And that's exactly the point. The chidah is hakol shochatin lechatechila u'shitatan keshira di'avad. What does that chidah mean? But first, the introduction of the sugya, I had to explain it is, here's the chidah. Here's why it's a chidah. We're not giving you the answer to the chidah. It's a riddle. We didn't give you the answer. It's encoding something, whatever it's encoding. But first understand that it's a chidah. Rav Chava is pushing back. And Rav Asher demonstrates convincingly that indeed it is a chidah. Okay?
Yeah.
All right, so I think I have to get to work now, and I know by you it's Shabbat soon. Let me see the yeshiva a little, if you don't mind, if it's a...
And far, like a bit.
You're like...
No, but machine.
I see.